It was 2:13 a.m. when Ahmed started his car on a lonely Texas highway. The road stretched endlessly into darkness with no cars, no lights, just the faint hum of wind brushing against the metal body of the vehicle and distant thunder rolling somewhere far away. Ahmed had moved to the United States just 3 months ago and worked as an Uber driver. Night shifts paid better and he needed every dollar he could earn. That night he was exhausted, his eyes heavy, his mind slow, and he had already decided this would be his last ride before going home. He even reached to turn off the app, but just before he could, a request popped up on his screen. Pickup location Black Hollow Highway, passenger unknown. Something about it felt wrong, like a quiet warning deep inside his chest. But money mattered more than instincts, so he accepted it and pressed the accelerator. As he drove deeper into the highway, the signal on his phone began to drop. 1 bar, then none. The GPS froze for a second before correcting itself. The road became quieter than before, unnaturally quiet, like even the wind had stopped breathing. Then his headlights caught something ahead, a figure standing at the side of the road, completely still. As he got closer he realized it was a girl, wearing a thin white dress that moved slightly with the cold air, barefoot on the rough asphalt, her hair covering her face. Ahmed slowed down, every instinct in his body telling him not to stop, but he ignored it and pressed the brakes. The car rolled to a halt beside her. For a few seconds nothing happened, then slowly, unnaturally slow, she moved, walked toward the car, opened the back door and sat inside without asking, without greeting, without even looking at him. The moment she entered, the temperature inside the car dropped sharply. Ahmed felt the cold crawl across his skin like invisible fingers. He forced himself to speak, asking where she wanted to go. There was silence for a few seconds that felt far too long. Then in a soft, almost distant voice she said, "Just keep driving." Ahmed swallowed and pressed the accelerator again. The car moved forward. The road ahead seemed darker now, heavier somehow. He checked the rearview mirror and noticed her posture. Perfectly straight, completely still, her face partially visible through strands of hair. But what unsettled him most were her eyes. Completely black, no reflection, no life, just darkness. He tried again to start a conversation, asking if she was okay. But she ignored the question and instead asked him, "Do you know where this road leads?" Ahmed forced a small laugh and replied, "Yeah, it goes toward the city." But she slowly turned her head toward him and said, "No, this road leads nowhere," her voice calm yet hollow, like it came from somewhere deeper than just her throat. Ahmed felt his chest tighten. He tried to shake the feeling off, but something was changing. The air was colder now, so cold he could see faint vapor in his breath. The engine suddenly made a rough rattling noise, the headlights flickered violently, and before he could react the entire car shut down. Engine dead, lights gone, everything silent. Total darkness swallowed him instantly. His breathing became loud in his own ears as he reached for his phone, but the screen was black, completely dead. No battery, no response. Panic began rising inside him as he tried to restart the engine again and again, but nothing worked. Then from the back seat came her voice, quiet but clear. "You can't leave now." Ahmed turned quickly, his heart jumping into his throat, but the back seat was empty, completely empty. The girl was gone. His mind struggled to understand what he was seeing. Before he could react, he felt something warm near his ear, a breath, followed by a whisper, "I'm here." His entire body froze, every muscle locked in fear, his hands shaking violently as he grabbed the door handle and tried to open it, but it wouldn't move. He pressed the unlock button repeatedly. But the locks didn't respond. It was as if the car had sealed itself shut, trapping him inside. Then the voice spoke again, softer now, closer. "You let me in." Ahmed's breathing turned into shallow gasps, his vision shaking as he looked forward, and suddenly something began to appear on the windshield. Letters forming slowly as if invisible fingers were dragging across the glass from the inside. "Don't look back." Each letter carved itself in front of his eyes. He stared at the words, his mind screaming at him not to move, not to turn. But fear is stronger than logic, and slowly, against his own will, he began to turn his head, inch by inch, until his eyes faced the back seat, and what he saw destroyed whatever sense of reality he had left. The girl was not on the seat, she was attached to the ceiling, hanging upside down like something unnatural, her hair falling toward the floor, her face inches away from his, her eyes completely black and wide open, her mouth stretched into a smile far too large for a human face. Ahmed let out a scream that tore through the silence, and in that exact moment the engine roared back to life violently. The car jerked forward and accelerated at full speed without him touching the pedal. The steering wheel twisted slightly on its own, correcting direction as if guided by something else. Ahmed grabbed it, desperately trying to control the car, but it didn't respond. It was no longer his car. He was no longer in control. The speed kept increasing. 100, 120, 140. The road ahead seemed endless, repeating itself, like he was stuck in a loop. From behind him the voice whispered again, "Now you belong here." The words echoed inside the car, bouncing off every surface. Ahmed screamed for it to stop, begged, cried, but the speed only increased until suddenly the car came to a complete stop without warning. The silence that followed was heavier than before, suffocating. Ahmed sat frozen for several seconds, his hands still gripping the wheel, his breathing loud and uneven. Then slowly he turned his head forward. The windshield was clear again. No words, no signs, everything looked normal, except it wasn't. He reached for the door handle again, expecting it to be locked, but this time it opened easily. He pushed the door and stepped outside. The air was cold, unnaturally cold. He looked around expecting to see the highway, but there was nothing. No road, no sky, no horizon, just darkness stretching endlessly in every direction. As if the world itself had disappeared, his heart sank as realization crept in. He was no longer where he was supposed to be. He turned back toward his car and froze. The car looked old, rusted, broken, its paint faded, windows cracked, tires half deflated, like it had been sitting there for years, abandoned, forgotten. Ahmed stepped back in shock, whispering, "This isn't possible." But before he could process anything further, he heard a sound behind him, slow footsteps dragging across the ground. He turned slowly, and there she was, standing a few feet away. But she wasn't alone anymore. Behind her stood dozens of people, men, women, all silent, all still, their faces pale, their eyes completely black, staring directly at him without blinking, without moving, like statues of something once human. Ahmed's voice trembled as he asked, "Who are they?" The girl tilted her head slightly and said, "They stopped. Just like you. They picked me up. Just like you." Ahmed shook his head, backing away. "No. No, I'm leaving." He tried to turn and run, but his legs refused to move. He looked down and saw the ground beneath his feet shifting, turning dark, pulling him downward slowly, like thick shadow swallowing him whole. Panic exploded inside him as he struggled to pull himself free, but the ground held him tight, dragging him deeper inch by inch. He screamed for help, but the sound barely escaped his throat. The figures began to step closer, slow synchronized movements, surrounding him. The girl stepped forward until she stood directly in front of him and whispered, "Now you stay." Ahmed felt himself sinking faster, his legs gone, then his waist, then his chest. His hands reached upward desperately, but there was nothing to grab, nothing to hold. The last thing he saw was her smile before the darkness closed over him completely, and then there was silence, absolute silence. The next morning a police patrol found a car parked on the side of Black Hollow Highway, the door slightly open, the engine cold, no driver inside, no signs of struggle, no footprints, nothing, just one thing written clearly on the inside of the windshield: "He picked her up." The case was filed as a missing person but never solved. No body was found, no trace of Ahmed ever surfaced again. But the locals know something is wrong with that road, because every single night at exactly 2:13 a.m., a ride request appears on driver apps from that same location, Black Hollow Highway, passenger unknown. Some drivers see it and cancel immediately, some ignore it, but a few, driven by curiosity or greed, accept the ride, and those drivers are never seen again. And if you ever find yourself driving late at night in Texas, and your phone buzzes with a request from a road you've never heard of, with no passenger name, no destination, just darkness ahead, remember one thing: some rides are not meant to be taken, because on Black Hollow Highway, the passenger is never just a passenger, and once you stop, once you open that door, once you let her in, the road doesn't let you go, it keeps you, forever.